Good day. This is Bob Shaw. I'm the Executive Director for the Standards Coordinating Body for Regenerative Medicine. I'd like to first thank you for your time and for your attention. I'd like to review a little bit about what the Standards Coordinating Body does, why it's important for us, and also why it's important for your organization. So in terms of the Standards Coordinating Body, SCB, and a little bit of background, we were established in 2016 as an independent 501c3 organization. This is pretty important because it allows us to occupy a very unique niche within the field. It's important for us in terms of our ability to communicate and interact with regulatory authorities, but it also provides us the opportunity to have no vested interest and remain unbiased in our approach. SCB is not a standards development organization like ISO, but we coordinate standards development and processes. We want to accelerate the process of standards development. There are no membership or fees to participate, and we really serve as a communication catalyst amongst all of the various stakeholders, government agencies, and people interested in this area. In terms of how SCB works, on the left-hand side, what you see is we coordinate, we engage, and educate, and I'll talk a little bit more about each of those. In terms of why we need standards, there are a lot of very good reasons that you see identified here on the screen, but it's primarily the issue that regenerative medicine therapies are unique in themselves, are unique in terms of the diseases that they're trying to treat. They're very new in terms of the technology, and therefore these present challenges both to developers, but especially to the regulatory authorities in terms of their ability to review documentation and come to some decision about how comparable one product is to the other. And so the need for standards has been something that's been identified quite routinely over the last number of years with regards to regenerative medicine therapies and products. Now, why engage with SCB? It's because we can help. One of our unique aspects is that we can work directly with the FDA and regulatory authorities to understand their priorities and understand the issues that they're having with regards to review of regulatory documents. And that gives us the mandate to be able to communicate back to industry what those priorities are. We can help you map your processes for where standards can help. One of the areas of feedback that we routinely receive is that standards may be known, they may be recognized, but it's unclear in terms of how they can be implemented within the clinical development process. Also, we can help make sense of the standards complexities, the various organizations that are involved with this, the nomenclature involved with this, and the processes involved with this, because some of them are quite particular to the standards development process itself. And our job is to make sense of that universally to help each member of the industry and the field itself progress. Now, in terms of SCB activities and processes, what you see here from the left-hand side to the right-hand side is where SCB is involved. It can be a very lengthy process. It involves a large number of inputs from various members of the regenerative medicine community, from industry, care providers, patients, researchers, government agencies, and the like. And of course, we're dependent upon the standards development organizations, those organizations that publish official standards, again, like ISO, to be able to help us there. What SCB does is bring together the various stakeholders and the standards development organizations to help accelerate this process. What SCB focuses on is, first of all, identifying the needs for standards, what areas those exist. We prioritize those, conduct feasibility assessments of those needed areas to assess whether the technology is ready, whether subject matter experts are available, and whether the process is ready to move forward. And if so, we enter into the development standard process. Once that is done and standards are published, what we've been told is the most critical aspect of this from industry in the field is the ability to help the various stakeholders be able to understand how to implement standards and where it's appropriate. And this is the role that SCB plays. Why would you use standards? Again, just to reinforce this area, one of the easiest examples is around comparability. And we know comparability is so important from a product development standpoint. It's also important from the regulatory agencies, because as they assess one product versus another in the same area, the use of standards makes that much easier for them to make an actual assessment. But we can identify a number of examples: comparability analysis of data, let's say between sites of manufacture, site to site inconsistencies. And one of the key areas is the use of CDMOs. Most of the industry today is using CDMOs, and there's obviously a tech transfer that occurs between the primary developer and the CDMO initially, and eventually between the CDMO and the developer on the other end. And the ability to use standards to help navigate that process makes it so much easier. Obviously, reference standards for the use of equipment calibration, and also anything that's involved with ancillary starting or product contact material. If you're going to look at comparability between those two, having a reference standard or a standard that you can refer to makes it so much easier to do that. And what SCB can do is help answer the question of, what standards do I need to be aware of? Where do they exist? And when in the clinical development process do I need to start thinking about them in terms of implementation? One of the major reference documents that the SCB put together was the Regenerative Medicine Standards Landscape Report. This was updated in fall of 2019. What this did was identify in one place all of the existing standards that are applicable for regenerative medicine. And so in one reference document, you have all of the standards that need to be identified for the processes and products that you're developing. These are divided into three sectors: one in cell therapy, one in gene therapy, and one in tissue engineering. And as you may imagine, many of the standards overlap, and we can help you understand where those overlaps occur and how they can be applied specifically to the sector that you are working in. One of the most exciting areas for us as we move forward was, we knew that the landscape document was very complex in terms of the large number of standards and being able to interpret that, and also to be able to search for standards in terms of identifying which are most important. And so one of the initiatives that SCB undertook was the development of a regenerative medicine portal, a searchable database. It will be live and launched March 18th on the SCB website. And basically what this does is duplicate the information that is in the landscape report, but allows users to come onto the site and basically search for the standards that do exist or that are in development, to be able to reference those and understand which standards you need to be familiar with, and where to actually retrieve those. This is just another screenshot of what this searchable database would look like. As you can see, you can search by the various sectors. So each of the standards can be searched through either in total or through the sectors themselves, in the functional areas that have been determined for where the standards lie, by organization. If you have standards within a particular organization like ISO or ASTM or AABB, as you see here, you can search for those standards. You can look at the status, whether it's in development, published, or whether it's been withdrawn, so that you know it's no longer relevant. And by type, is it a documentary standard, that is a document that needs to be referred to, or is it a reference standard that you could actually purchase and use? In addition, you can search by keywords. And again, all of this will be online and available through the portal on the SCB website, available March 18th. So we think this is this will be of tremendous value for the industry and for the field, and provide a great reference area to be able to search across all of the organization in terms of the number of standards that do exist. And what you can see there is that there's 261 that currently exist for regenerative medicine, and all those are available through this portal. Okay. The other, as we mentioned in terms of SCB processes, one of the areas that is needed is obviously identification of the areas in terms of regenerative medicine products and processes where standards will be needed. What SCB does is poll the industry and develop the needed standards report. These are the areas of standards where the industry has determined, the areas of processes and products that the industry has determined standards will be needed. This was updated most recently in December of 2020. We involve over 250 experts worldwide to make sure that we've got a broad input in terms of what these standards are. And within the last update, 9 new needed standard areas were identified. And these standards are prioritized by both impact and urgency for the field, so that we will be able to see, you would be able to see in this document, not only the breadth of standards that the industry has identified, but also where they are in terms of priority. In terms of the 9 newly identified areas, you see them listed here. They involve a broad number of areas. And in terms of the top 5, in terms of priority that we'll be moving forward with in terms of feasibility, one was around defining aspects of certificates of analysis for ancillary materials. The next one was comparability between assays for human immune response to viral vectors, a major concern for the gene therapy companies. Best practices for conducting off-target analyses for gene editing products, as well as guidelines for vector characterization, design, and validation for use in cell and gene therapy product areas. So if your company is involved in any one of these areas, you should have someone in your organization contact us or look at the information that's occurred there, because what will follow is feasibility and working groups that will be established to assess the standards as assess the feasibility for these standards moving forward. This is a very busy slide, but it encompasses essentially all of the work that SCB has been involved with over the past 3 years. And as you see on the left-hand side are the processes that are involved in terms of standards development. On the top right are the number of standards and standard areas that SCB is involved with. And what you can see is, number 1, there are 18 of them. What you should be aware of is the length of time that is involved or has been involved in terms of the development and publication of some of these standards. And the one key contribution that SCB has made is over the past 3 years, where we have become involved with standards, we have greatly accelerated the process in terms of the standards development process and publication there. We have been able to reduce processes, the standards development process from 2 to 3 years of the average length down to 6 months. And we feel that this acceleration is really key to the industry in terms of getting the standards through the process, published, and allow for implementation just as quickly as they can to be able to help the industry. And what you see below is the specific titles or areas of these 18 projects and that SCB is involved with today. How SCB works in terms of transfer of information is, number 1, we collect the information as broadly as we can. SCB wants to be the go-to source for information with regards to standards for regenerative medicine. As I mentioned, we have 2 major reference reports, the standards landscape report, as well as the needed standards report that are both available on our website. And again, I'll mention the portal that will be live on March 18th. We also do outreach through webinars and workshops, talking about the importance of standards, what the current standards landscapes are. We involve a broad number of stakeholders there, as well as government and regulatory authorities and other professional organizations. What I would point you towards is our annual meeting, which we're tentatively targeting for September of this year. We're still looking at the format of whether that will be virtual or in person, but look for more information with regards to the content and agenda of that to follow. But the last time that this meeting occurred in 2019, it was a great success, and we keep hearing the need for more information for the field and the industry to come together to learn about standards, and our annual meeting will provide that. We also have fact sheets on our website, fact sheets that involve terminology, fact sheets that involve definition, also fact sheets around standards processes, as well as the standards organizations. And again, reference material that you can make use of and that will be useful for your organization. As well, we provide quarterly newsletters, blogs, and updates where we routinely update what SCB is doing, what standards we're involved with, and most importantly, where standards are conducting open ballots and looking for input from the industry in terms of the standards development organizations themselves. Open ballot periods are where the public, essentially the industry in the field, get to comment on standards that are being considered for publication and where you can provide those feedback. But what SCB does in terms of the work that we do, we facilitate and convene working groups that help in the standards development process, and you can become involved there as well. So I hope what I've been able to do in this short period of time is give you a background of what SCB does, why standards are important, and why they should be important to you. And most importantly, where SCB can help in terms of both your awareness and visibility of standards, and most importantly, how we can help in mapping your process and helping you develop a strategy for implementation and use. So just to summarize, SCB's role is to help advance and accelerate the development of standards for regenerative medicine. Our the landscape and needed standards reports are great reference documents that can be downloaded and can be referred to. Our searchable portable will be live March 18th, not March 26th, typo on the slide here, but they're key reference documents for anybody to use. And we know that the standards process can be complex. It can seem to take a long time, but SCB can help your company both develop the strategies and map your processes, again, for standards implementation, and help you in your process development and your regulatory reviews with regulatory authorities. Thank you very much.